Leonardo DiCaprio. No,
No, my
Andre.
husband he's far better than Leonardo DiCaprio, but older though.
There you go. Well, hello, welcome to Bono's Health, and we are joined all the way from San Remo, Italy, by Andrea Caprio, not related to Leonardo DiCaprio, but husband looks better than Leonardo DiCaprio. Is the There you go, there you go. We got to see the picture. We'll have to see that on social media.
Okay, you can check me out on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm sure you see me somehow with my husband. Nice being here. Thanks, Dr. Bo, for having me.
Yeah, so we connected through the Precision Nutrition Facebook group, and excited to chat with you. You wanted to talk about some emotional eating. Let's start right there and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing for folks with the food freedom formula. I love the alliteration.
Yes, it came together after working over 8 years with clients. So I actually came in this whole nutrition coaching myself through my own story, like I think most of us actually. I was, kind of not eating that healthy, not really unhealthy either, but I realized at one stage, there was a bit more sugar than I thought here and there, the sugar in the coffee, the cookies, the this and that. And I started to have a couple of health issues. I was tired all the time, some overweight, weekly migraines, fibroids that had to be removed several times, um, bloating, all kind of little things here and there. And I came across a really healthy way of eating, really clean eating. I did at the time a detox. And literally, almost within a few days, my health issues improved. And further down the road, obviously, some long-term health issues also improved. And when I realized that that was linked to food, as it is, you Google something and then you get a Facebook ad shown of a nutrition school, and hop, I said, okay, I really want to help other people. At the time, I had moved to Miami actually, so I saw how unhealthy people were there, and I really wanted to help other people. And I did eventually my Master Certified Transformational Nutrition Coaching program or certification as well, where I have like 8 different specializations. And I started helping people losing weight, keeping it off, and emotional eating. Because what I realized at that stage that more and more people came to see me and they said, look, Andrea, I've tried diet after diet. Doesn't matter which kind of diets, but they tried so many diets and usually they lost some and put on back more, right? And this kind of yo-yo dieting obviously has been detrimental to their health, didn't make things better, even worse, and also made them feel defeated, right? And, you know, not happy about themselves. And they started feeling like they are the broken link in there. And I always say, it's not you who's broken, it's the system, it's whatever you came across that's not working, because there must be a better way. And I always see people know in general what they should be eating, right? They should be rather eating the apple and not the bag of chips or whatever. Most people know. But then, stuff happens in life. You're stressed. You have some emotional stuff going on, and there can be, bad, like anxiety or, stressful events. But it can also be happy events, right? Our society is so much actually putting together happy events like weddings, no, funerals are not happy, sorry, it's still an event together, but births, childbirth, and all these kind of things, and always it's food involved. So I really realized that a lot of people struggle with this emotional eating. That's why I specialized in that.
And you mentioned the certification and the that process. What was that through? What company was that through? Just curious.
So it was ITN, Institute of Transformational Nutrition Coaching. At the time, I checked 60 different schools out. I'm very thorough in my approach always. And for me, that was really the best because it was a very holistic approach. So I based and learned, obviously, based that on the science of nutrition on one side, so very much the functional nutrition side of looking really at the root causes of things, science of nutrition, of course, how things are linked to each other. And then on the other hand, the emotional and the spiritual health as well, because I believe that is very important. And that's very often what's missing in this typical diet approach or the typical pop a pill, pop one of those weight loss pills, whatever they're called, without naming them right, because in the end, that doesn't really work, because there is something deeper sitting, right? You want to look and what was maybe the trauma that somebody had in their childhood or just childhood issues going on, right? The self-sabotage, the procrastination that sets in, the belief system, the limiting belief system we have. So I believe that plays a huge role. And yeah, and all that I have added in my certification, I have added there. And then I did my master program and I did a certification or specialization in digestive health and hormonal health and diabetes and weight loss and emotional health, actually in cancer as well and autoimmune diseases as well. So it gives me a very thorough background, being able to go a little bit deeper than probably the typical health coach. Nothing wrong with that, by the way, but I like to go deep.
Yeah. In terms of, you mentioned the hormone testing, I'm very curious. Is that something you in your work with clients? Is that something you're incorporating with every client, or sometimes just in certain situations?
So first of all, I don't do testing myself or tell people to do testing. I might recommend it to see with their doctor. I mean, I'm not licensed, to test or even interpret. But I have obviously an idea, and I can always have a look into things and pull things a little bit together. Very often, a doctor might see it only one from a certain perspective. So if you go to an endocrinologist, it's only from that way, but they will not put things together with maybe looking at gut health at the same time, or whatever it might be. So I'm kind of very often pulling all this together, and that gives them an idea. So I might recommend to do some testing if I have the impression there's something, deeper, but again, that goes through the doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Are you familiar with functional medicine? Is that something? Yeah.
That's
So,
fully what I'm working with, yes.
okay. And but you don't call you, I don't see the term. The term is very
No,
vague,
because
similar to health coaching. Yeah.
absolutely, because I've not done a functional medicine. I'm not a functional medicine doctor or so. So I can, or even nutritionist. So I cannot call myself. So I use those principles.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, that doesn't matter to most practitioners. So they'll just call themselves that, as the term has no regulation really. Even health coach, again, even if there are certifications for those terms for the consumer out there listening, interested in the topic, but there's no regulation,
True.
unfortunately, and so you don't need to be. And we actually found a very good functional medicine practitioner who's a nurse practitioner, not a doctor necessarily, but she was able to put things together for some friends here that better than most endocrinologists could when they were struggling with things like that. And unfortunately, yeah, the medical system, anyone familiar, is there's medicine 2.0. They're most in focused on putting your health first, in the sense of we need to keep you alive. And then medicine 3.0, for anyone not familiar, Dr. Peter Attia talks about it. He's brought that to light, I think, very well, that it's what we're talking about here, kind of putting those pieces together, and again, adding in even that psychological component. So fantastic. You also feel, I assume, that it's something missing from the psychological industry, from psychologists, psychiatrists, that side of it. Do you end up having patients that have already seen that, or you might refer to them as clients? So I don't want to put those words. Do you call them clients, patients?
You would call them clients usually, yes, exactly, because I'm not a doctor, but it doesn't matter. But yes, I fully agree. Well, that I have, yes, I have these clients. They either see a doctor and it stays completely on the medical field. I have many of my clients see, almost most, I think, a therapist or have been seeing a therapist. And yes, they might have helped them maybe, but they never put that together with the nutrition part, right? Going back to the emotional eating, a lot of people do struggle with this. They do know there is a component, but there's just the link is missing. So I believe in our 2.0 system, right? The whole link between the different methods is just not there. And I feel really I'm providing that a lot to my clients. that I have a little bit of psychologic background through my education. I'm obviously not a psychologist or therapist or whatever, but I have that background and I have the science of nutrition, so I can really pull these things together, and that has been very helpful for my clients.
Yeah, I love that. We hear the term cravings or kind of emotional eating, those triggers. Give us a little bit of a peek of maybe of how you start to approach that. I definitely have had clients on my nutrition practice as well, and they might be in a support group for that concept, but something that they still uh, struggle with. And from my perspective, again, I have a background in psychology. My wife's a PhD psychologist, and she specializes in sex and relationships, for anyone needing that out there. And there is that relationship with food. She does not specialize in that, but the thought is, again, bringing awareness is my big philosophy. I'd just like to hear how you approach that, and if you can share any part of that, of the craving, the triggers, being aware of that, high stress, how to manage that.
So you just mentioned one word, keyword is awareness, right? So awareness for me is always the first step. And if you listening here to our wonderful talk and you say to yourself, oh, maybe there's something, probably there is, right? You would be very clear about, oh no, this is definitely not me, or this might be me, or there might be something. So if you feel somehow there is a little bit something to dig out around, go for it. I always like to start with awareness part. I usually like to start with asking my clients, for example, do you plan all your food and do you stick to your plan? Somebody who plans, a regular meal plan, regular meals, even the snack or so, right? If they plan that and stick to it in terms of quantity, frequency, and all these kind of things, and also what they're eating, right? Then usually I would not necessarily say there's an emotional eating, unless of course there's, that they plan it, but they eat a lot of sugar and a lot of, unhealthy stuff, then obviously it becomes that as well. But most of what I found, most of my clients, most people I came to know is that they are not sticking to their plan. And I think that's the biggest. So whenever there is an emotion, and that can be, as I mentioned earlier, happy, sad, positive, negative, stress, boredom, anything, kind of sets that up and starts them off to eat something they haven't planned, right? And again, that can be a meal, a snack, that can be quantity, frequency, and what it is, the quality as well. So I think that's important to note. I usually, when I start working with my clients, I ask them just to write down what they're eating over the course maybe of a week or something, all the meals, anything they eat, and how they feel and what triggered. So, for example, they would go, okay, 8 o'clock, I had my breakfast, I had planned my smoothie, and I ate it. Happy, I felt good. I was, maybe you could even add a hunger scale. I was slightly hungry before, and I was, not too full, but also not too hungry after, right? Maybe at 11 o'clock, my boss called and shouted at me because I didn't deliver whatever. And I headed to the cookie drawers and I ate, a bag of cookies or whatever it is, right? So these kind of things, and how you feel maybe after, then you feel like tired or overly full or ashamed or guilty or whatever it is. So do that. And you will probably realize, if you do that over several days, a week or so, you will realize a pattern, right? You might realize that every day around 4 o'clock, obviously, not exactly, you snack, right? And it's not necessarily a planned snack. So that could mean that either your blood sugar is very low. So we might then look into the blood sugar, right? So maybe you have had a lunch that was too carb rich, that spikes up your blood sugar. It drops after that, and that falls at around 4 o'clock, and you need a pick me up, and then you need to get your blood sugar up. So we would look into balancing your blood sugar, right? We do that normally with, making sure you add enough fiber to your diet, protein, some healthy fat. but not too much carbohydrates, at least not too much those starchy carbohydrates, right? We might add them maybe a little bit later in the evening because they make us tired. On the other hand, if maybe after, let's say you come home from work, or even you move offices if you work from home, right? And you are kind of tired, bored, you slouch in front of TV, and out goes the big bag of chips or so. You feel bored, right? You're tired. So that is a different reason. So maybe we just need to change a little bit something. Maybe just before you get home, you have a light snack that helps you, to feel a little bit better about you. Or maybe you want to do another activity. So maybe you want to go for a walk or do some breathing exercises, and that will help you with this. So you really want to become aware, and then you want to find out, where does it come from? What's the trigger? So maybe you can work on the trigger. What can I do instead? And then tweak that. And you basically implement, you review, you implement, you review, and as you go, you make that better.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a very, again, challenging process, but also, yeah, laying it out is always the key that I found as well, working with my clients in that sense. In your and for anyone watching, listening, we do have the link for your Food Freedom Foundation workshop. The somewhere wherever you're watching, guys. If you're listening on audio, it should be in whatever podcast player you're doing. You mentioned effortless weight loss despite being busy. Tell us a little bit about that. Again, is it just kind of in this behavior change? And also, let me side shift the question: is are you meeting with these folks once a week? Is it kind of a little different case by case? Is it once a month? Give us a little more insight on there.
So, first of all, it depends really on my clients. I have several programs. I have group coaching, I have one on one coaching, I have also a program, which is my Food Freedom Foundation course that you can do on your own and then check in with me once, and there's usually accountability. I've also only accountability. I started that recently and I really like it. Quick accountability calls, because a lot of people struggle with time. We all are busy. And I have one client I met earlier, for example, today. We have every week 50 minutes call instead of my normal coaching calls that are about 45 minutes, where we go a little bit deeper into the reasons of emotional eating. So this is for clients, for example, they need a little bit more hand holding, they need to go a little bit deeper into things. We do a lot of practices in my one-on-one coaching, whereas in accountability, we set very quick goals and off they go. And then the week after, we review it. And they have all my clients have access to me during the week, sort of 24 hours or every day. So they can check in with me. I personally believe really in a very personalized way of doing things. I'm not a cookie cutter person because we all are different, right? So I really adapt to my clients' needs, depending on what their goals are, what they struggle with. And then, of course, let's face it, it's also a little bit a budget thing. Some people, want really the very deep one-on-one, and some want maybe a more budget-friendly course structure or so. So it really is also up to them. And to answer the other question, I don't remember another word you used, but for busy people, basically, not having too much, that don't have too much time. So I believe in setting up healthy habits. And by the way, you mentioned my Food Freedom Foundation workshop. It's very much about how to set up healthy habits that work no matter what emotion you are in, right? And no matter how much time you have as well, or what happens in your life, all those stressors, those triggers. And also this workshop helps you to reframe a negative mindset to the positive one, and helps you to understand the 5 stages or 5 steps of my Food Freedom Foundation formula, which is the whole system I'm using basically to help my clients. And to go back to the habits. Now, I ask you and the listeners or viewers here as well, do you brush your teeth? And you probably wonder, what does you want now? I hope so. I hope everybody says yes, me, in the morning, in the evening. But the more important question is, do you think about it? And probably you will tell me, no, I don't. I just do it because I learned it when I was a child or someone maybe after I passed my teenage years or the wild years or so. And I know otherwise my teeth fall out. You don't think about it. You just do it. No matter if you have willpower or not, because willpower is one of these overrated things. We think willpower is important. I tell you, it, it doesn't exist almost, right? You have a very limited amount of willpower and you cannot rely on it. But when you have a really good habit that you implemented, you can rely on it like when you brush your teeth, right? You just do it. How do you set up this habit? I learned that and I use that a lot with my clients. The book Tiny Habits, maybe you know it, a really great book, similar to Atomic Habits, but Tiny Habits I really love because it's very simple. Basically, you find a trigger. I just give you a sample. Let's say you want to drink more water, right? Which, by the way, is very important with cravings because very often we think we crave food, but in fact, we are thirsty. And I feel I'm thirsty because it's super hot here. So I'm drinking. Cheers.
I
So
got my
let's say you
electrolytes
want
in here.
very good as well. Yeah, in the morning I do my Soli water as well. So let's assume you want to drink more water. So what you could do is you say the trigger is each time you go to the bathroom and after you wash your hands, you turn off the tap, you drink a glass of water. Obviously, ideally, you want to have the glass sitting next to your tap in your bathroom, right? So you could have that as a trigger. So you know, each time after you've gone to the bathroom, you washed your hands, put off the tap, you drink a glass of water. You start that with one, maybe then you add two, and so on, right? Or you do it several times per day. So that's the trigger. That's the new habit, right? Drinking that glass of water. You want eventually to get to your 8 glasses of water, whatever it is. And then, very important, you want to celebrate. Now, the celebration is something that most people underestimate. But what happens when you celebrate? Basically, the celebration kicks off a dopamine in your brain, right? And we all crave this dopamine, right? That is basically why you eat, right? To reward yourself, for example, because you want to have that dopamine kick. Now, when you celebrate, your brain gets that dopamine kick and puts it together. Oh, each time when I drink that water, I get this dopamine kick, right? So eventually your brain will crave that water, that glass of water to drink it, right? Because you get that dopamine kick from the celebration. And that celebration can be a yes, high five, a happy dance, whatever, doesn't matter really, but something, right, that makes you smile. And that's how you set it up. So you have the trigger, the new habit, the celebration. And that's how you can rely on habits. And you can do that with food, with exercise, anything basically. And that's how, as a busy person, you really can then stack habit after habit and make it super easy to get to your goals.
Yeah, I love that whole concept. As somebody in the space, I do want to ask you about. You mentioned the magic little pill. I don't know if you were referring to the GLP-1 agonists, the drugs all making their way, and it sounds like you work with clients all over the world, correct?
Mostly US
Is
though,
that
but
something?
yes.
Most of the U.S. Okay. Is that something you're seeing? Obviously, here in the U.S., it's the predictions are we're looking at exponential increase in folks on these drugs that seem to be making their way. Is that something you're seeing? Have you seen any clients on these GLP-1 agonists? Most people know Ozempic is probably the most popular one, but there's plenty out there. I believe there's 10 on the market, and they seem to continue to be making their way there. It's something definitely in this space. A lot of people talking about. Would love to hear your thoughts on
How long do you have, right?
that.
Look, the thing is, look, I've seen people, of course, I've seen people. I personally don't recommend it. I do work, however, if somebody really takes them already when they start working or get them recommended by the doctor, I have to support them, right? So I will definitely not recommend it, but I will also not say, hey, if you take this, right, I'm not going to work with you. So I will always work with somebody around wherever they're at. it's like with everything. It doesn't really matter if it's a pill, if it's intervention, right? Like an operation. It doesn't matter if it's even somebody who does exercise or who eats healthy or whatever. If you do only one thing, it does not help you, right? I believe that really you need a holistic approach no matter what. I personally definitely don't think that it's a very good approach to pop a pill because, one, most people are not aware of the side effects that can have, and there are a lot of side effects there. Which we all know already. Obviously, more as time goes on will come out, but there's definitely a lot of dangers to your health, other side effects that can develop. But more so, what I see is, and what people don't realize, if they start with this, they would have to take it for the rest of their lives. And people think, oh, I can, start with it maybe 6 months and then stop it. But basically, what happens after 6 months, and that I've seen several times, even people I know around me, right? They started and they stopped and then put back on the weight, and usually left them in a worse space than they were actually before. So to go back, I really believe there is more, what we discussed earlier, more on the root cause. Okay, why are you struggling to lose weight, right? What are the health issues under it? What are the emotional health issues underlying? And so on. And when you start addressing those, that is then when you see long-term success without having to rely on a pill.
Yeah, it brings me to an interesting question. One of the main things I do have some nutrition coaching. It's not my primary thing, but is getting people stronger, and that seems to be one of the biggest missing pieces in that GLP-1 debate. I'm curious, working with clients, how is your approach? Again, we assume that we're pushing for a healthy lifestyle, but in terms of lifting weights, is it as simple as get walking, get moving? Do you do anything in that realm on the exercise front?
So I'm not a trainer. Simply it's that. But it's obviously integrated in what I recommend. Again, going back to the holistic part, I will always say nutrition and then add some exercise. So depending where they're at, I have clients who are 100, 200 pounds overweight. I obviously will not start them off with some weight lifting or so, or 10 miles run or so. Sometimes it's literally, I start off my clients to walk around their house. That's might be as much as they can get to. I always recommend to start, again, going back to the tiny habits, right? The smallest amount of exercise or movement that you can do and you're sure you can do every day, rather than having 1 hour once and then never again. Because in the end, it really is. I think it's more important to get into the rhythm, right, than having this 1 hour. Obviously, provided somebody has not done exercise or this amount of exercise. So obviously, if you're used to 1 hour, continue doing with that. I personally believe, I mean, I'm at an age exercise becomes more and more important to maintain, of course. And so I definitely believe that one should have a very complete exercise routine. So you need some cardio, you need some weight exercises, you need obviously some stretching, yoga. I also like, high interval walking personally. We got ourselves a dog a couple of years, if not a couple of, it's almost 2 years now. Yeah, it's almost a couple of years, for one of the reasons to make sure, we get ourselves out there. All these things are very important. But I think, like in everything, it needs different things together to make it whole.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always a big fan of getting that muscle mass measured, especially in the aging population. Which once you're over 40, muscle becomes worth
Yeah.
keeping an eye on. Just like we look at our blood pressure, all our basic numbers, cholesterol, all the doctors are looking at. Muscle mass seems to be the organ of longevity, so it's one that I always focus on from try to hit it from all the perspectives. So that's my personal practice piece there. But I want to be respectful of your time, and again, I really appreciate what you're doing, and I think we need more practitioners out there focusing on these habit changes for sure. My, again, nutrition practice, I present it as 52 weeks where we have 52 calls. I do one call a week, and we have different habits every week that we're working on. If we get stuck at any habits, we come back to it. So it sounds like we're very similar focuses on habits, maybe slightly different ways to get there, which is totally fine. It's going to work different for different people. I love that that's a thing, and that, again, we hopefully get more practitioners like you out and about and spread this message. So thank you for being on here. Apologies again for we did have some time issues last week, all my fault. So Andrea, not Andrea. Andrea is the American way to say it. Yes. Give us. We do have your links in the show notes: Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff, including your Food Freedom Foundation workshop. But tell folks if there's any other message you want to leave them with, or anywhere else to find you.
I would say, first of all, find me somewhere, either on my website or on social, Facebook or so. You can just send me a message if you have any questions. I'm always happy to help people. I want people to be better. I will not charge for that. Only obviously if you want to work deeper with me. So feel free to contact me. Always happy to share some good, valuable resource that can set you off, and you can decide to do it on your own or to get help. But just know you are not the fault if you've tried several times and not succeeded wherever you want to go. You just need to find the right system and the right person to help you to get there.
Yeah, one of my made me remember a thought there that Rob Wolf, if you've read any of his books, Wired to Eat is a great book, and I believe in that book he says the systems are set up. There's food scientists saying, "Hey, I bet you can't eat just one of these because if we've designed this, so if you take a bite of this potato chip, your brain is going to want more." We've designed it that way. We're trying to get you. They admit these things in their advertising. And he says it's not your fault if you are over fat, if you are overweight, but it is your responsibility. And if you want to feel better, look better, live better for your family, we're trying to offer those better tools that hopefully get people where they need to go. And that awareness is one of the biggest things for sure. So thank you again for your time. And we will sign off here, guys. Hope you got at least 1% better. And go find Andrea and go get Tiny Habits. Excellent book. I put the link in my Instagram just now and the show notes. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Thank you both. Thank